Kwe Kwe, greetings. Kwe Kwe is Algonquin for hello. Hello. Um, it's just about touching on stuff today. In light of the last few videos and speaking with people who share similar ideas to me, um, we are, sharing information through text and all that, or WhatsApp. It's about 2 to 3 people altogether. Just people who have maybe met me through my channel and or other panels that I have visited. And so we're sharing just little bits of information, that we're finding. And if I were to sum up what I'm concluding from our little chats, it's something that I already know, but it's just solidifying. So what I see is that, yes, we're starting to see how state nationals are looking at our system, how they are able to tell the difference between commercial law and law of the land, and how they really let us know that the Constitution was originally, it was only to be guidelines for the corporation. They were the corporate entity on the land, but not the men and women. We were supposed to be in a land soil jurisdiction and not a sea jurisdiction. But thanks to our government being infiltrated by the monarchy of Britain, namely, with the backing of the Church of Rome, the Roman Catholic Church, it's like, I'll put you this way, it might have been, our Constitution might have been new to us, but it wasn't new to the monarchy, nor was it new to the Church of Rome. Either Indians forgot history, or we just weren't really, maybe we weren't aware of what was going on outside of America. But everything that we are in currently, in terms of what we call a government, basically none of it really originates from American Indian ways. These are systems that were established basically under the Church of Rome. Even what we call a state. So what I've concluded thus far, even with conversations with like-minded people, American Indians are not supposed to be part of any of this, not any of it. The ones who decided to be part of this, um, first of all, they did not do it with the consent of all Indians. So, say for instance, the Iroquois Confederacy. Being at odds with their neighbors, basically the Algonquins. In other words, whatever they established, it wasn't to benefit other Indians. So what I'm trying to say, even in as much as Indians have participated in this foreign form of government, uh, it was not really meant to serve American Indians. It was something that some Indians partook in as a means to put an end to their Indian enemies. So it was inasmuch as we have American Indians in bed with the colonizer, it was not a thing where they were trying to bring good to all Indians. It was a war tactic. It was a way to squash any further warring with other Indians, because these Indians would slowly but surely be taken off the land. Where the Indians, like the Iroquois Confederacy, they will always be, they're getting, let's just say, somehow in this, they're the only Indians, probably next to the other 5 civilized tribes, that are getting either recognized to some extent, but still not being recognized as sovereigns on their land. They're getting like they're the teacher's pet. Like, like they're still dominated by the colonizer, which we're calling like the teacher. But they are in good standing. You see, and this is whether they identify as Indians or not. So I don't think the thought that I have is that the Iroquois are no longer identifying as Indian. I think they would be more of the Black elite. So now they would be the ones who insist that we are from Africa, that we're Black. That, to me, that would be where you would get that narrative from. These are not white people. These are the Indians who betrayed all other Indians. And now they're trying to get the other Indians to believe that they're not even Indians, So this is the situation. The more I try to wrap my mind around the situation. But again, what myself and a few other like-minded, I think they have helped me to, again, say that there is nothing established. There is nothing established here in the Americas or in any international space. There's nothing internationally, there is nothing nationally that is here for and by American Indians. The only time we're going to get that is when we create it. We are very effectively, very much alone on this planet. But you see, we have a landmass that everyone else on the planet is very desirous of, shall we say. So in some way, that is our leverage. But fortunately, or for some unfortunately, there's nobody that has it laid out for us. It's not in their best interest for American Indians to be sovereign on their land, but it is the only place where sovereignty would be even possible by a people. Essentially, every other empire outside of America is built upon a form of monarchy. America was not that. We expelled the element that insisted on a world domination by denying people choices. How did that happen? Americans had been denied their own spirituality by the priesthood. This afforded the priest and the monarchy associated with that priesthood, the Amen priesthood, along with those of the 18th dynasty. This was their ticket out of here. When they denied American Indians our own spirituality, trading it for an extremely compromised spirituality with deities that were extremely foreign to us and did not look like us. This was what got these folks cast out of, expelled from the Americas. So when they get out, all they're interested in is dominating. So they want to make sure that their forms of religion and government are basically one and the same, where they are using God to dominate the people in tyranny. They're using a sin narrative to justify the ill treatment of people and the rights, the God-given rights that these people would have are only allowed to the monarchy and the priesthood. This is what the ancestors of American Indians were not tolerating. That is why when they come back, we are forced. They come back with a vengeance. We are then the narrative is put on us, and we are seen as the sinners. Now, we have nothing to do with their religions, but according to them, we have basically gone against their religious beliefs. Again, how do we go against beliefs that we never had? That is something that the Church of Rome they just had to go with that. They no explanation really. It's just they're assuming the role that they are the keepers of every living being's soul, and that if you don't agree with us, then we have a right to strip you of your sovereignty and steal your land eternally, even after you become believers of our religion. You never get your land back if we can help it. So that's how we know what the goal was. The goal was to steal from us. It wasn't to convert us and we live happily ever after and now we get our land back because now we're Christians. No. So the truth of the Church of Rome is revealed, right? As well as what the monarchies, as well as their true motives were just complete domination of our lands, as if we're not here, and over time a slow, grueling elimination of our existence, our standing on the land. This is why it's so important for us to realize there is no international jurisdiction, there is no national jurisdiction that has something that we can use. We have to come to them and tell them of our standing and dare them to deny it. You see, they can't. They can't. Once we have the gumption to stand up and say, all of this is a result of colonization, none of it was agreed upon by all Indians. Just a few traders and a few $5 or 5 civilized tribes who, again, mixed DNA with the foreigner, thinking that that would give them a leg up. It kind of did, but it kind of didn't. When we read what we read about the Washita, I don't know about you, but I was hearing all about King Louis and what his family gained. And, you know, I was really not hearing too much about the princess that he married. You know, once you marry into their bloodline, their goal is to get rid of it. It's not to preserve us. The Indians that they got involved with, again, that was just the birth canal they needed to have a stake in this land. But make no mistake, they are here to continue in the genocide of all other Indians. The only thing, the only reason why they are in cohorts with the traitor Indians, or the misguided Indians, or the Indians looking for the easy way out, or thinking that's the easy route. The only reason why you are in bed with the European is so that they can be justified in erasing your legacy, not theirs. You see, I don't think the 5 civilized tribes are fully aware that your people are the people that are up for elimination, not theirs. When you marry into their system, they still have no love or respect, really, for your side of the family, okay? You are here to be eliminated or be under their thumb and under their dominion and part of their empire, not the other way around. They're not becoming part of your empire, they're tearing those down. I hope the 5 civilized tribes understand what you are actually in. You would be the ones that the Bible speaks of when they say someone despises their birthright. That would be the 5 civilized tribes. Whether they know it or not, I'm telling you, that's what it is. Because it is, again, yours is the legacy that's being washed away, whitewashed away. It will be said that only you were here, and you know that's a lie. So you have to despise your people. They're loving their family. These Europeans are loving their legacy, loving their family. It's an extension of their empire. So Indians who are in bed with the colonizer, baby, it's a lose-lose in the long run. Your ancestors, I don't see how they could. They were part of the ones who kicked these folks out, okay? I'll put it that way. They got kicked out. So for you to take them back and give them a footing to continue the genocide that they weren't able to do when your ancestors were around, can't be good. But I have to say again, we read that it was the priesthood. The Washita was a priesthood. So I can't speak for their ancestors. Apparently what we read said that they were the priesthood. They were the ancient Sumerian priesthood, transformed themselves into these 5 civilized tribes, beginning with the Washita. That's what we read. So again, in the final analysis, I think it'll be scary at first when we literally have to stand up and reject every form of government that we've ever known up to this point, because we've forgotten ours. So I'm not saying forget ours. I'm just saying which we have known and what we have been aware of. It's like we have to erase it from our mind and create, think, create. Okay? We have to create our jurisdiction. It's there, I should say. We have to build upon it. It's already there. It's even mentioned in the Constitution. However, unclear, it is a fact that there were 3 sovereigns, as we read in one of the articles. One of them just never ever got to live in that, and they were being squeezed out, ironically, by the same commerce that these foreigners were contracted to regulate. Instead, what the foreign entity did was make sure that we were crippled commercially and in commerce. What they did in the South was basically a takedown of the South, a removal of Indians who would have been the main providers of food for the colonizer, as well as for, I guess, for the whole for the United States. But the colonizer took control of our livelihood, and it became more of an international thing. It's like our food supply. You know, it would have been primarily Indians who profited off of food production in the Americas. Those Indians in the southern states. But we were the Industrial Revolution made sure that we were not able to be part of it. It is so heinous what this corporation has done. I don't see how any Indian would want to continue in this travesty of justice. Indians have to create their government on this landmass, whether they like it or not. If they don't, it's only going to be more of what we have seen for our entire lifetime and the lifetime of our grandparents and our great-grandparents. If we don't stand up and take our land via standing in our proper jurisdiction, I don't even like really calling it that, because it's still given a nod to colonizer, this whole idea of jurisdiction. But the fact remains, we are the first people of this land. We were never supposed to be under the codes, rules, regulations, statutes, mandates. We weren't even supposed to be in the states. We weren't supposed to be in the federal system or the state system. So with that, I would like to share my screen. We're half an hour in. Okay. Okay, so we're going to quickly go through. I don't want to read everything that we're going to look at. I just had some highlights. So I got this from Hold on. Oh, come on. Give me my highlights. Okay, it doesn't like to highlight when there's a hyperlink, but you can see it's from encyclopedia.com. Okay. So this is encyclopedia.com, and it's called the state. And what we want to get an idea of is where's my highlights? Looks like my highlights disappeared. I had highlights here. Okay. I don't know if we're gonna read all of this. Okay. So yeah, my highlights disappeared. Um the state, the independent and sovereign community. The term is derived from the Roman law concept of status, re Romane, the public law of the Roman Republic. So when we trace a thing to its origin, does this say anything about this being a product of American Indians? In fact, a state is a creation of the national the what do they call it? The national church of the Roman state, the Roman Republic. It's from the Roman Empire, is what I'm saying. The same church that said basically we should fall under the doctrine of discovery and dum diversas, slaves forever, basically. They are the ones that brought the state to our shores. This is for Indians who really are done with the BS and really want to get out. So when I say that we are not in states, we're on our linguistic territories, and I mean territory strictly in a non colonizer language. We're talking about our linguistic land areas that we had before the state was put on it. Indians have a God-given right to not be in or part of a state. You're looking at where the state comes from, right there, highlighted in yellow. I don't see, I had highlights on here. I don't know why they disappeared. But that's all we really need to focus on. We don't have to get into all of this. Let us let me see. What I found interesting, I might want to look at, is that the concept of a state meant, and I think I heard Dane say this once before, and I really didn't understand the concept of it. And I don't know if they really go into it here, but it's the state that's sovereign, not necessarily, it's something where the state is sovereign. You know what I'm saying? So the foreigner has to be linked to a state in order to be sovereign. Whereas an Indian, our sovereignty is just our birthright here in the Americas. We don't have to be linked to a state to find our sovereignty. You see? That's why we're not supposed to be in states. Our sovereignty would go above and beyond that of a state. Okay. So that's why state and national is not the jurisdiction for us either, although it is better than being a United States citizen, which is the lowest slave. A state national, they have access to sovereignty and they are the ones that that benefited from the American Revolutionary War. That was all about them. It wasn't about American Indians. It was basically understood, though it was hardly talked about, that we had something else going on. We were just here. We had our tribes, and whatever we did with our tribes, that was our law. That was what we did. Whatever our chiefdoms were about, that's what we were about. And then they basically dissolved our tribes. So they knew that we would be, it's like somebody just pulling your footing, the structure. Well, I wouldn't say they pulled the structure. Let's just say it's almost like taking a house and demolishing it, but the foundation is still there. So the effect of colonization was to basically blast the structures that held us, like the tribes, blast those and let the Indians forget that they have a foundation here. We're going to look around and all we're going to see is states. And then suddenly we're going to be saying, well, I live in the state of New York. And no, you don't. No, you don't. You live in Algonquin territory. This is what Indians have to learn to start to say. This is the language that we're going to have to stand on when we're dealing with the federal system and the state system and the international system. I don't know why Indians feel that we have an international daddy waiting for us. Where is he? He's not on this landmass, right? So that means he's not really for just this landmass or just us. I think if we just open our eyes, we'll realize an international jurisdiction is a grouping of nations that are compromising their individual footing to be part of a international. So there, somewhere in there, they are giving authority to a third party, whereas it would be just the people and the government they established, a two-party system. Now it's the people, the government, whatever government they had, and this international overlord that's basically looking to create something that he can, over time, get a little more authority than he would have without it. The international jurisdiction is not your savior, Indians. Stop it. Stop it. If you're not willing to do it on your own land, how do you think you're going to do it outside of this land? We have to be willing to do it on this landmass. This is where we have every right to do it. We don't have those kind of rights if we go to an international jurisdiction. And an international jurisdiction is not giving us our rights. We have to invoke those. Why? Because we're standing on it. The international daddy is not standing on our land. He got his hand in everybody's land, right? So if we give him our authority, we're handing him our authority. International tables or seats at international tables, you're meeting representatives, number one. You're not meeting the people themselves. Indians really need to grow up on this subject. I hate to say it that way. Stop being so ignorant. Stop being so naive. Do you think that those nations who do you think are on those panels? Do you think it's the actual people that are on those lands, or do you think it's their overlords calling themselves representing them? Really, they're just looking to grab everybody else's stuff. Those just like we're not really represented in the United Nations, neither are all those people that we think are. These are the families that are those what, like those 13 families and those 1%. That's who's heading the United Nations. Wake up, and you've got to know that this is the case. We don't have any friends overseas. What we have are the partners in bed with the United States corporation. That's who went out there and looked them up. So you know that they have nothing to do with the people. The United States corporation set out to make a League of Nations that end up being the United Nations. And we read about how even when they found those that would be like the overlords of this United Nations, they couldn't even keep their greedy little fingers out of war. Now, these were supposed to be peacekeepers, but we read that at some point China, I believe, wanted to get involved in a war, so they had to either they were asked to leave, but they didn't leave, or they stepped out for a minute so they could get their war on and then come back to the United Nations and be all peaceful. If it wasn't China, we'll have to just look at the video again. But I believe one time it was China, then one time France, I think, or Italy. I can't remember which, but so to me, that speaks to you are not really dedicated to peace. Even those who are of the permanent members of the the great five, it is, what was it, the great 4 or 5 nations that are permanent seats in the United Nations, they couldn't even refrain from war, and they're the ones part of this worldwide peacekeeping thing. But watch out when they're looking to keep peace, because in order to keep peace, you have to have war, right? In that Hegelian 101, if we create a war, then we can come in and say we want peace, right? To be relevant, there's going to have to be wars for us to keep peace, right? These people know what they got to do. So Indians need to stop thinking international. No. Think the ground beneath your feet is all you have. That's all you have. That is what is a given. And if you don't fight for that, you might as well forget. Why even go international? Why even go international? You're not even, it's like basically what we're saying is we want someone else to fight our battle. We're going to go out off this landmass, get somebody in an international UN jurisdiction, come and help us, please. Oh, please don't be so damn ignorant. Please don't be so ignorant. They are not our friends. The United States, that's who they're in bed with. The very same government that basically pirated us outside of our superior status or jurisdiction. What we're going to use those terms loosely. They're all commercial terms. But how does a government make sure to get the primary people into a subservient type of position and then run out to make a United Nations, talking about they care to bring peace? You can't do that until if you were really about that life, you would make sure that you restored us, or saw that we got restored back to our original status as the first Americans of the land. But no, you made sure that we were black, and now you're going out to make a United Nations. It was Roosevelt, I believe. Was it Will? Oh gosh, we have to go back to the video, but it was an American president that the United Nations was his brainchild. It was an idea of an American president to start the United Nations. And I'm trying to get Indians to understand that if this was the president of the corporation here starting something, it was never meant for you. It's really not that hard to understand. Nothing that they create, undrip, no. Again, that's someone else speaking for you when you have every right to stand up and speak for yourself. You don't want a third party. Your third party will be acting like some kind of broker, and he's going to want in on your birthright. Let's just cut to the chase. This is a work that any people fighting for their land would have to take or undertake, unfortunately. The great news is now we know we have a right to do it. We would not be overtaking the government. What we would be is taking back our land. And if that's that again, that has to be seen. If we got them even talking about the rights of indigenous people, they must know that indigenous people have a right to have their land back. But again, they're not the ones to do it for us. We have to do it. If they do it, they have their hand in our birthright. We have to do it, okay? We have to do it. There's no questions about it. Ain't no corporate entity going to get you your land back. No, it's not. It's just going to further commercialize you and bring you further into commerce. We were not born on this landmass into a commerce system until the colonizer showed up. Okay, so, the concept. Okay, let's see here. Wait a minute. International, see how international law. Okay, as a body politic, the state has its own supreme internal order of positive law, ordered to a distinct common good that is the ultimate authority within its order, binding a people who inhabit a defined territory. Although each state claims sovereignty and independence from other societies of the same order, states are interdependent and bound to recognize the community of nations and its public international law. You see how the state kind of ties you to an international jurisdiction? Why? Because it's being brought by monarchs. Monarchs like to take over people's land. So they are always going to bring international. And of course, the natural law, okay, which is ultimately the foundation of the state. Well, that's according to Europeans and Rome, right? Is this a revolutionary idea, Indians, that we don't want to have anything to do with Rome, nor do we want anything of Rome in our dealings as Indians on our land? Or are there some Indians that feel like, oh, let's have a little bit of Rome, a little bit of Greece, a little bit of Britain? They never take just a little, or have we not lived enough through that kind of scenario? Indians, you have to create what you want. And it's not going to be what Europeans have. I'm sorry. They already got that. We see that it's a very unjust system. Did I say something crazy? We see that it's an unjust system, huh? And any questions? Why? Why is it an unjust system? Well, look what happened to us. Look what happened to us. That shouldn't happen if the system was built right. First of all, we have the Washita Moors and the 5 civilized tribes saying that the Moors swooped in and they tried to stop the fighting on the land. So they created a two-system government. That's what we read. We might have to look at it again. One for the Moors and one for the Negropeans and their mulatto children, who would end up being called the Americans. So they're looking out for theirs, right? We have to look out for ours. What was the point? The point was, at its inception, we have the Washita telling us that they, representing Moors and the priesthood, designed this two-system government for them, the Moors, and the European. Where is Indian in that scenario? Not there, right? Yeah, because we have to look out for ours. Ain't nobody trying to save your babies, American Indian. I'll say that again. Ain't nobody trying to save your babies. How could they be when they're trying to steal everything that you could possibly have on this land? And you want to be down with this system where your children or your children's children have to share what belongs to them with an entire world? Why? Again, these people have, oh, I learned tonight. I watched a bit of Anna, you know, she broadcasts on Monday. I tell you, but she explained. Now, this is useful. You tell me if this is useful information or not, or if it's an old white woman talking foolishness. You all tell me if this is useful information, because to me it was. She explained that only in America is it really supposed to be your choice to be a citizen. Anna explained tonight that people from other countries, they don't have a choice. They are always considered dual citizens by their home country. In other words, their home country does not see them as just American. Their home country says, oh no, you will always be a citizen of Italy, a citizen of Russia, a citizen of Germany. She gave examples. She said, only in America is it literally your choice. But you see, if they have their way, everything that America offers will be turned into slavery. It's just they're gonna make it what they want it to be until Indians say, no, no more. We're here. You can't just run rampant on our land and we have no say. Why do you think they've been treating us like this for so many years? Unless they know we have the power to say stop. If you get in their system, you no longer have the power to say stop. You're still going to be run. Now, you might be able to call yourself an Indian. You might have a little reservation, but you ain't going to have no say in how this corporation runs your government. Indians keep thinking that this beast is willing to share. You must wake up. They don't share. They say, oh, you're not taking your birthright? Good. We shall run you. The only way you're ever going to have a say, Indians, is when you stand on, oh, here's that bad word again, your sovereignty. Oops. Well, I know a lot of Indians don't like that because they're so programmed. They think, like the government trained them to think that means you're a sovereign citizen. You're not supposed to be a citizen at all. So when the government says, oh, it's a sovereign citizen movement, no. And if it is, it's only because you pirated us into being citizens when we weren't supposed to be. So we should be talking sovereignty since it was stolen from us. We got tricked into this at best. It's a lose-lose. I don't know if we're going to get into it, but I can tell you that I found a document from Anna, which I thought I would like to look at tonight, because she seems to talk about how state nationals partnered with some group of Indians to take back this country. And I'm thinking to myself, oh God, here we go again. Now, this is the first time I heard Anna speak about literally grabbing some Indians in order to basically take back the government or have a legitimate to legitimately claim what this country was supposed to be built upon, what it was really supposed to be. They had to get Indians to do that. And guess what? It was none of the five civilized tribes. There needs to be a mic dropping right now. When I tell you the five civilized tribes have been hoodwinked, they are not even being sought as the go-to Indians, although they're claiming that they are the oldest. In the case of the Washita, they, how do I say this? Well, to be fair, we would have to really look into the group of Indians that Anna partnered with. Yeah, she had to get Indians. I know that there's no sovereign Indians. So I should have really looked into that before I did this video, but they were Lakota. I know the word Lakota was basically the Indians. Now, yeah, that remains to be looked at, because I'm sure that there are no sovereign Indians. So the Indians that she went to, whatever setup they have, they are not living as sovereigns. The reason why is because the real Indians, us, have not established our Indian government. So these other ones, I don't know what they are. I just know that they're not the real deal. But Anna still found somebody to go to. That was eye-opening in a good way, but also in a not so good way, when I realized, okay, so Anna realizes the Indians have some say, you know. It's just that, once again, we are not those Indians, and we will never be those Indians if we keep trying to be part of a system that was never built to have us in it. When we get in their system, just like when we became citizens, we lose all of our true sovereignty. Why are Indians repeating the same mistakes? Why are Indians still insisting on voting in a system that we're not even supposed to be in? Why do Indians think that repeating the same mistakes is going to get them somewhere? I don't know. I really don't know. I can't answer that. I just know that I can't be part of it. I can't be part of it. Um, yeah. I'm not here to be something that has already failed. Why would you even put your effort into something that has already failed? How did it fail? Because there's still Indians that are not, they're still not outside of the system. Every Indian that we know of is still in a federal or state system. Instead of insisting on, well, they can't because they're not the real Indian. Again, only we can do that. That's why we get the worst treatment in America. That's why we're the targets for genocide. Okay, we were the target. Now there might have been other casualties, but the fact remains that even in their statistics, they know that we are a majority now. So now would be the time to run a genocide mission. Now that they know, okay, there's going to be some collateral damage, but the point is, there's far too many quote unquote Negroes on this land right now. So now we can do that. And we'll just have to cut our losses with the ones who got knocked off in that process. Yeah. That's why the timing of the pandemic was what it was. It was to get our numbers down, not just any random you know, once our numbers explode, then you can run a genocide mission because you're guaranteed to make a dent in that figure. And if it's not that, then there's something in the technology, shall we say, that is there for life. And so it might not get you now, might not get you tomorrow. But with this new technology, boo boo, just keep getting them boosters. See, as Indians, we can call it what it is, genocide. But we still have to establish our footing on this land. We can't be in the federal Indians. I really have tried, and I'm going to say that the ancestors came through. Because you want to think that, oh, maybe I could do that, and I could still be, part of the system and be an Indian. And that what the message I'm getting is, no, you can't. We It's like we didn't wake you up so you could just go deeper into your colonizer's system. It's like, do you want to be free or not? And I have to say, y'all, I only know to choose freedom. I will not waste this time by only like seeking to be in a higher level of benefits and privileges, domestic dependence, still with Congress running every Indian's move. They're not supposed to be doing that. Congress is not supposed to have plenary authority over the indigenous of a land unless those indigenous are completely brainwashed and think that that's a great thing. No, it's not. You don't have any say. Plenary authority means they are your superiors, not you, not anything Indian. It's a European uh, entity that has plenary authority over Indians until we say no, thank you. And we do that in a peaceful way. Why? Because we have a legal footing. It's called our birthright. They know we have it. That's why they went out of their way to do what they have done to us, misclassify us into the lowest possible thing. They wanted us as far away from that birthright as possible. Why? Because we're the only ones who truly have it. They know the Mongolians don't have it. And the five civilized tribes, they're so compromised in their bloodline that they don't even need it at this point. They don't need their birthright. They settled for some kind of multinational deal where they got King Louis descendants speaking for them. You know, they don't do much talking except proclaim that they're from Africa. Lord have mercy. Uh yeah. Yeah. This is what the five civilized tribes are up to, y'all. I don't know if you paid attention to that last video, but the five civilized tribes, they I think their European spouses are teaching them to think that they are one and the same with the European, who's actually more African than American Indian. But see, once the American Indian takes on that bloodline, now they talking like, we African. Yeah, you're African, but you're working counterproductively. That's why y'all don't have any power on the land. By insisting that you're from Africa and the Dogon and blah, 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 you're just telling the colonizer to see you like himself, a foreigner. And it seems like the Washita are proud of that. I guess that's what their bloodline leads to. Yeah, maybe it's just a fact. I don't know if they've been brainwashed or if it's the actual fact, but if they are those priests that were kicked out, it would be a fact. It would be a fact. So what I'm trying to say is even they are not in the same position as awakening Indians are. Awakening Indians, y'all are the ones they're trying to keep from all of this, you know? But it is kind of strange that the Washita and the five civilized tribes, they are proudly proclaiming their mixed blood with Africa. And it's funny because they don't seem to understand that that's what's keeping you from being true birthright Indians. I don't. That's not our problem. I think all we got to know is that we cannot do what any Indian has done before us. We can't do what they did, y'all. We're not being woken to just follow the protocol of compromised Indians. Does anybody get that? Is it like hard to figure out why that's the case? So we wake up and immediately we start doing what all the compromised Indians did, and we think that that's a solution. Somebody better want their land back. For real, I mean, I'm not talking about a reservation. And I'm not talking about as a civilized tribe or a federally recognized tribe. That's not getting your land back. That's getting a handout from your colonizer. That's what it is. And again, he's still dominating you. We got all this talk in the United Nations about the rights of indigenous people, but it's so funny that they're not really talking to this problem in America, you know? The fact that where's the real Indians at? We say talking a good game, talking about they got this right and they got that right. How come ain't nobody trying to tell them to resurrect their government outside of the United Nations, outside of the federal, outside of the state? That's what an indigenous would have. Something that was there before colonizer came. But see, colonizer don't know how to tell you. So his tongue gets twisted. And those words never really come out. They're gonna always insert themselves. We're here to assist you, and the United Nations here to assist you, and you're stopping. No, I don't need your assistance. If you were assisting me, you would address me directly, number one. You wouldn't lump us all together as indigenous people. You would know that every indigenous has a different situation. America's situation is not like other situations. Sorry. It simply is not. We started free. I can't say the same for other parts of the world. I from what Anna's telling me tonight, that their homelands do not consider them no longer citizens. So that means you don't have a choice, baby. Your homeland said you are still a citizen. You don't have a choice. That was the whole point of what Anna was saying. She said, only Americans have a choice. And boy, but this system ain't trying to let us know that either, though. But she said, constitutionally, Americans always had a choice. See, but because they want us to not, anyway. Actually, it would be great if Indians had a system where anywhere an Indian goes, there still is see, ours is the one that's up for grabs, is what I'm trying to say. It's a good and a bad thing, because it's bad because that means that's just how bad they are willing to see us lose our birthright. It's good that we have the choice, but the bad part is we don't have a government set up that would insist upon us not able to lose our birthright. You see, those homelands are telling these people, no, you're always, see, so that's what I mean when I say other people, they have homelands. Why should they have two and American Indians only have one? And so that's more reason for us to take back our land. Yeah. So what was I reading here? Making this a long ass video. I just want to show that it's sort of tying international law, and that's how we know we don't want that crap. The international law is not your savior. I don't care what no Indian want to try to think. It's it's just not the case. Okay, you ought to know that it's not the case. A seat at the international table, no, no, no. The whole system was built to make sure that some kind of one world system gets put in place where ain't nobody really gonna have no land and stuff, you know. So I'm trying to highlight this, but I don't want to highlight. They just public international. See, I gotta go with from there. I gotta start from up there. To recognize the community of nations, states are interdependent and bound to recognize the community of nations. That really is troublesome. If we're, well, see, that's not a system that we have to be worried about. I'm just trying to show that this is why we don't want it. So no, I'm not going to go into why it's troublesome, because we ain't even supposed to be in it. Let me see. Yeah, I had highlights here, but seems like they disappeared. Here we go again. Come on. The state in Catholic thought. The state is exemplified in Greek, Polish, or Roman, Egyptian, Persian times, older than Christianity. Now, when they say Egyptian, you got to realize they talk about Africa. Okay? They never wanted to admit that the first Tamari Egypt began in America. So don't get jiggy because they mentioned Egyptian. That was the element of Egypt that was expelled to Africa. But it's interesting that they're saying this is Catholic thought. The first one was Roman. This one is Catholic. Ain't they one and the same though? But they're trying to say that the state is older than Christianity because it started out Greek. Okay, it's still not American. When the Tacitus contemptuously called the secta Christianorum spread, what? When what Tacitus when what Tacitus contemptuously called the secta Christianorum spread from its birthplace in the Roman occupied into Hellen Roman Empire. So they're trying to say it came from the Roman occupied community of Jews. The Christians were neither socially nor politically revolutionary. Okay. Whatever they're saying, guys, all we have to understand is that American Indians don't got nothing to do with this. Oh boy. Oh boy. Which was then seeking to save itself by an ideological assertion of the divinity of the emperor. The Christians were neither socially nor politically revolutionary. So they're just, I think they're trying to say that even though America had a revolution back then, it wasn't revolutionary to have a state. Yeah, they had to take what they got, you know. It was already known that they was subservient to the Church of Rome, you know. They accepted the empire. They prayed for the powers above them. They paid their taxes. They served in the legions. They were accused of atheism, however, because they refused to acknowledge the national gods and the worship of the emperor, and thus they were persecuted. Oh, they talking about the Jews? I think that's what they're talking about. Already in the writing of the church fathers, and especially in those of the apologists. Okay. According to Catholic tradition, the state belongs to human culture and to the secular order. Its root is in the social nature of man. Its end is temporal felicity, happiness. Therefore, it is taught by all the essential mutual rights and duties of citizens. I'm sorry. Therefore, it is taught by all that the essential mutual rights and duties of citizens and of political authority are independent of the state of grace. Um, the origin. Okay, the philosophical problem of the origin of the state must be distinguished sharply from the inquiries into the factual historical beginnings of the individual states, or from ideal constructions of how these beginnings ought to have occurred. It refers to the essential properties of man's nature that make life in a political community, be it ultimately even that of a world state. Be it ultimately even that of a world state. See, that's what the one world order wants. A necessity in the sense of Aristotle's dictum that the stateless man is neither a demigod or a beast. True history proves empirically that man has always lived in states. And that all attempts to live in anarchy without law and authority and motivated exclusively by mutual love have failed. They must be talking in their the thing about the ancient world, again, it was dominated by monarchs, right? Priesthoods and all of that. So them talking about a state really is a point of view that you're hearing from the more the not the people themselves, right? So they want to say that states that's just the natural state of man. In your world, maybe um, in America, we had our tribes. We didn't have states. So this is why I'm really not trying to go to with all of this. Um, again, we're not gonna. I done spent too much time on this already because the opening statement was really that's telling you where all of this is coming from. Okay, it did not come from America. Came from those who were cast out of America. Church of Rome, right? The Roman Republic. Okay, so this is why I brought this up to solidify, even though we kind of got derailed. We're not in a state, y'all. Indians ain't in no state. And as much as the state tries to uh you know cavort with us, it is less uh a lesser status for us. So the Constitution. So we looked at the state, we found out it's foreign, and what we're going to find out is that so is the Constitution. Okay. Okay, I highlighted down here. Let's just go to highlight. The general idea of a constitution and of constitutionalism originated with the what? Ancient Greeks. And especially in the systematic, theoretical, normative, and descriptive writings of Aristotle. In his Politics, Nicomachean Ethics, Constitution of Athens, and other works, Aristotle used the Greek word for constitution, politeia, in several different senses. The simplest and most neutral of these was the arrangement of the offices of police, state, police of state. Wow. In this purely descriptive sense of the word, every state has a constitution. Every what has a constitution? And what is a state? We just found out. Not American. Every state has a constitution. So the idea of a constitution itself is from the same origin as a state, which is Roman, no matter how badly or erratically governed it may be. Really, I want to stick to the highlights, y'all, because then we just let me see. Okay, I did say it. Okay. Theories about constitutions. Aristotle's classification of the forms of government. Aristotle, not an Indian, okay, was intended as a classification of constitutions, both good and bad. Under good constitutions, listen to this. Under good constitution, monarchy, aristocracy, I'm sorry, and the mixed kind of which Aristotle applied the same term politeia, one person, a few individuals, or the many rule in the interest of the whole polis. Did you hear that? Aristotle's classification of the forms of government was intended as a classification of constitution, both good and bad. Under good constitutions, monarchy, aristocracy, and the mixed kinds, to which Aristotle applied the same term, politeia, one person, a few individuals, or the many rule. One person, a few individuals, or the many rule in the interest of the whole polis. Under the bad constitutions, tyranny, oligarchy, and democracy. The tyrant, the rich oligarchs, or the poor demos or people rule in their own interest alone. Well, our version of democracy, the people are not ruling at all. Okay. So that part what he says about the many rule, no. We are dominated like nobody's business. We don't rule crap except, well, it's getting to the point where we don't even really, with all the commercialism, I don't even think we're buying what we want to buy. We're being sold shit, you know? I wanted to say we only control what we buy and consume. That's all we get to rule over. But that's sort of becoming a thing of the past too. You know, this direct marketing crap is really kind of annoying. I mean, okay, I looked at one thing and now all I see is that thing. Like it comes up. Now, remember when Google, you pull up a Google page or a news page and you just see general advertisements. Now it's all stuff that you looked at, and it's like annoying, really. It ugh. So everyone's computer now is like personalized to only advertise to you whatever you have been looking at or purchased last. Now you're going to get bombarded with those images. And really, it's a whole other level of annoying. Okay. Um, okay. Okay. Aristotle regarded the mixed constitution as the best arrangement of offices in the polis. Okay, what does polis mean again? Oh, I gotta go up. I guess that's like the population. Such a politeia would contain monarchic, monarchic, aristocratic, and democratic elements. So he wants the mix. But we know whenever a monarch is involved, that's it, y'all. They're the top dogs, okay? I mean, if Aristotle was as brilliant as he said to be, if he existed, um, wouldn't he deduce that whenever you add a monarch to it, they they're they're the only ones who really have, oh gosh, how do I say this? The other two are just there for decoration, you know, to make it look good. That's why he thought it was the best because it kind of looks like everybody's on the same footing, but they're not, are they? No. Its citizens, after learning to obey, were to be given opportunities to participate in. Did you see that? So this is what Aristotle thought was best. After we learn to obey, I can't even believe they wrote that. Then we're given opportunity. See, Indians, this is why we don't want any of this. On our land, we don't get just opportunities to rule. That is our birthright to rule. It is our birthright. We should have been being paid for all of these people here in commerce. We should have been, especially because the whole system is basically commerce. We should have been getting paid up the yin yang, y'all. So we have a whole commercial entity here, and all we get is what, like crumbs? Who's getting all the benefit of this land, y'all? Do you understand why Indians can't be part of this? Do you understand that we get nothing from all the prosperity we have here? We don't get shit. Whereas if we did have the standing that we are supposed to, we would have to get. Right now, the monarchy and the church is getting all of that. They said we're heathen and we're sinners. Although we fill up their churches more than anybody, we're still sinners. Being a Christian did not afford you anything but a lovely suite in the mansion in heaven. That's not how Indians lived, though. Indians were very much about the land. So for us to trade that for something in heaven, it just amounts to a death cult for us, right? That's what this would be, a death cult. We're being beckoned off the land, y'all. I don't know if you realize that that's the nature of our spirituality, or the one that, they're shoving down our throat. So, yeah, I just realized, we have the government is commerce, y'all. Yet they are regulating commerce, and only they are seeing the profits of that commerce. They weren't supposed to regulate it that way. That's not what they were supposed to do. Just be collecting only they get paid for the wealth on our land, on our tribal lands, our ancestral land. We don't have no access to it. You see, this is what our version of an UNDRIP would say. Now, UNDRIP didn't really say it. They talking in generals. They're a whole commerce entity themselves, so they can't really speak to what an Indian would speak to. A real Indian, not just some nebulous aboriginal. We have to make our own UNDRIP, y'all, which is great because we get to say what we want, and we get to tell them that please don't read this in terms of lingua franca, because we're going to be talking plain English. Ain't going to be no mistaking what we say, because it ain't going to be lingua franca. We just going to tell it to you plain, y'all. We're going to tell it to you plain. The way that these entities would have gotten over on Indians the right way was simply this: we have control of our resources, right? If we wanted to buy from their land, the only power they would have over us is to maybe overcharge for something that we want. That's how it would work. If you want to try to make it, sell it to, like, out of all the other nations, we pay the most or something like that. That's fair enough. That's how, do you. But see, we don't even take part in commerce at this point. But I tell you, when we do, I think we have to rename it, because again, we got to get out of lingua franca. Uh, we don't want to have to be in a fictitious realm in order to trade, because in the fictitious realm, what's going on is there's ownership being established that no one really is aware of. Like, none of us are really aware that we are owned, our that straw man, someone, it's up for sale, it's up for trade, or what do I call it, on the, stock market activity. See, what we want is, we don't want some entity gambling on our lives. So that's why I think commerce has to be revamped by American Indians, because there's too much opportunity for fraud. We saw what happened to our own Constitution, right? We thought it was gonna really keep order and keep things right, and it's like, it was just it's we need something that's more solid than that, yo. I'm sorry, but we're reading about where they come from, right? Constitutions. So here's another reason why we have to think about something else, something that we create, right? It will affect the world. but that's okay. They didn't care how their system affected us, right? So we can't care too much about how shocking it's going to be to people in other nations. What we're basically dealing with is one monarchy, right? We're not even dealing with the people of those nations would probably welcome real trade as opposed to, again, what's happening to us is happening to them. It has to be more so. They don't have they're not reaping the benefits of their wealth of their land. No, the monarchy is, and the Church of Rome. So this is the system that exists now. The people of the land don't get what their land uh, has to give them. Someone else is standing in proxy for them or representing them, and those people are getting paid. And it ends up being the same people that infiltrated our system here in the Americas. So, what Indians might end up doing is really just establishing something where we're dealing mano a mano, not with some corporate entity that's representing people. Truth be told, though, I think in America we were good. We were really a self-contained system. I think that's also why we were so appealing to the greedies, the monarchies, and the Church of Rome, because we really didn't need them. So they wanted to make sure they infiltrated us, where in a land of plenty, all of a sudden now we need, and we just sitting back while our resources are being controlled, and we're begging for a little part of our own resources. This has to stop, y'all. This has to stop. The doctrine of discovery has been denounced. Um, I guess dumb diversives has to be denounced as well. I mean, they go hand in hand, right? Can't really have one without the other, I would think. Because you're a slave because you're a sinner, but the church has said that was wrong. To do that, everything that was done under the doctrine of discovery has been denounced. So the whole system now, this whole commerce system is not really even necessary. It's almost like you could say they created a commerce system because sinners were too sinful as themselves, so they had to have a straw man to represent them, and then we end up owning. The foreigners end up owning the straw man, so you're owned through your straw man, but you can't represent yourself because you're dead. You've been made dead, and the reason why you died is because you were your sins, right? You were cursed, you know, and I guess they're saying basically, even if you become a Christian, it's still too late. That's only for your afterlife. But here you're still condemned as a Christian because you never get your land back, right? Indians don't get their land back. They don't get their identity back. They don't get the control of their resources. They're still dominated, even after becoming a Christian. So it's like always been a lose-lose situation. But anyway, let's get back to this reading. I think this is already a too long of a video. So so we read that its citizens, after learning to obey who? I guess those monarchs. See, that's what I'm talking about. Were to be given opportunities to participate in ruling. Oh my God. See, this was a privilege only of citizens. A privilege and a benefit is temporary and circumstantial. God-given birthright, permanent. Uh, but the doctrine of discovery is saying that we lost our God-given birthright. See, that's what the doctrine of discovery is saying, that that is conditional on your sinful nature. But that's in their system. right? Um, I'll put you this way. Without, if there were no monarchy, uh retribution for sin could not involve losing your birthright because there'd be nobody to take it. Losing your birthright is not something that a God would do, a benevolent God would do, because it wouldn't serve any purpose. Like uh, losing your birthright is something that would serve a monarchy or a priesthood because they would be the ones that would benefit from that. If God wants you to lose your birthright, how you do that, and I think how God would do that, he just take you out. That would be the like one way that, say now a firstborn gets ill and dies or something. So then it's going to go to the next guy in line, right? So to me, if the Most High, he don't play around, he ain't gonna, swindle and do all that shit. You just take you out. If I don't want this one to have this birthright, and I want somebody else to have it, I'll just take him out. I think that would be a fair way for God to take away your birthright. It's because no one is going to be benefiting from it. In other words, there's not going to be some third party sitting back with their greedy fingers waiting, you know, displace you so they can make you a slave and then take your birthright. God ain't going to make you a slave. He's just going to say, look, I don't want you to have this. So I think this guy, the next guy will be better, and something will happen where you just won't be able to, but there won't be a third party. You see what I'm saying? That's the point I'm saying. In this case, the Church of Rome and the monarchs were just waiting for an opportunity to displace American Indians. So this had nothing to do with God. It was more about uh personal gain for these aristocratic and monarchic you know these type of folks. So boy, okay. This was a privilege only of citizens. However, since neither non-citizens nor slaves would have been admitted by Aristotle or his contemporaries in the Greek city states, Aristotle regarded some humans as natural slaves. I wonder which ones. And point on which later Roman philosophers, especially the Stoics and jurists, disagreed with him. Although slavery was at least as widespread in Rome as in Greece, Roman law generally recognized a basic equality among all humans. Can't be true. The Roman Catholic Church didn't, right? When they saw us as heathens, we were no longer equal. We had to lose what belonged to us. So maybe Rome is different from the Church of Rome. I don't think so. It was their biggest conquering tool was the Church of Rome, if you ask me. This was because the Stoics argued all humans are endowed by nature with a spark of reason by means of which they can perceive a universal natural law that governs all the world and can bring their behavior into harmony with it. um, this just all sounds good, but I think what we have is a colonizer. I think at the end of the day, if we are in a Roman system, which we are, we just read it, the state, the Constitution, all this is coming from Rome. That's why the Constitution failed us, states failed us. How did they fail us? Because none of them are acknowledging us really. Not enough to know that we are as separate from them, yet more authority than both of them, right? So the state failed us, the feds failed us most definitely, and The Constitution failed us. It seems to have not been written clearly enough to make sure that these kind of shenanigans don't happen. So I think, regardless of what I think, both the state, the Constitution, the corporation, all of them are foreign. That's what this video was about. And I actually think I better end here because there's so much I want to talk about, and if I get carried away, this is going to be a long ass video. So let's leave it here for now. I want a sneak peek at maybe we will look at one other thing. This was talking about the United Nations. Now, this is a congressional record. It'll be a 2-hour video, I guess. Hopefully, if I get through this. So we've debunked the state, we've debunked the Constitution. Why are we doing this? It is very hard for Indians to understand that we have to build our system from the ground up. But we've learned so much from the system that we were in that it shouldn't be that hard of a task. We have every right to. Even the Constitution, in its crazy way, is telling us this. Okay, so we don't want to repeat. Why don't we want to build upon what was already established? Because it doesn't belong to us, y'all. The state belongs to Greece and Rome. Constitutions belong to the state, which belongs to Greece and Rome and Britain and all of that. If we build on it, we're continuing their system. So we have to come up with new words. But I think we could stick to tribes, maybe. Well, I at one point I thought tribe meant tributary, but if it's tributary to our own people, then I realized there's nothing wrong with that, right? Well, of course, we'd have to trust the tribe leader that we're paying tribute to. And why would we be doing that? Because that person would be serving us more than any federal system would, more than any state system would be, more than any international. And when we think international, we should think United Nations, okay? Because that's the international entity, okay? That is the international entity that is pooling together the nations, right? So this congressional record, one of the House representatives was speaking about the United Nations. I got this from Glenn Fern. I listen to Glenn Fern as well as Anna Wrightsinger. And so in one of his slides, and let me give him the credit here. This is all Glenn stuff. And so I've given him the credit. I'm not making money off of this. I'm just sharing his information. It's his organization is Sovereignty International, but he has a YouTube channel called Sovereign Living. And so he has his slides available on his one of his websites. So I grabbed this set of slides. He does videos based on these slides. I really like his style because I think he's very quick with it, and it's almost like he's using flashcards with us. So, and he's very repetitive. So this is Glenn Fern's material that we're reviewing, sharing for educational purposes. So that's his his information there. Okay, his websites and all of that. engineerwin@yahoo.com if you want to contact him. Okay, but this was one of his kind of profound slide presentations because he had an actual congressional record. So it's the proceedings and debates of the 76th Congress, third session, 1940. This is August, let's make it a little bigger. August 12th, I think that is, or 19th, 1940. So let's read as late as 1940 what some people in the House of Representatives thought. So he's just giving he's zooming in on this, right? So he's showing you that it's the congressional record. It gets a little closer. You can read a little more. So that's, I think, August 19th, 1940. Okay, Monday. Okay, so then, yeah, so he zoomed out so we can read the whole thing. No, okay, so let us read. So it's all the same thing, right? He's just showing you the heading, and then he's showing you the whole body, and then here he gets even closer. Okay, so let's read what is being said here. Okay, this is the highlighted portion. Okay, if you just saw it. Okay, Mr. Speaker, the information contained in this booklet is important at this time, particularly in view of the fact that the pro-English groups of the United States are now working in close cooperation with world internationalist organizations. Before 1917, foreign influence came mainly from Anglo-American groups. Since the World War, these groups have been fortified by the international financiers and the internationalists, or the so-called minority group, like the 13 families or the 1%, all that. The pressure is therefore more than double or combined. These groups control all avenues of communication and are now using them to further their plan of British domination to establish a world federation of states. I thought this was quite apropos. So we see states were brought here to the Americas, right? But the larger plan is to create a world federation of states. So now America's states will naturally just be appended to the World Federation of States. So this one person in the House of Representatives saw this, and this was one of the congressional records, right? Recorded by one of the congressional records. Let me call your attention to the fact that on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, now that makes me think I did want to talk a little bit more about that Great Seal that we learned that the Washita Moors created, because they're saying that one side of the seal is the pyramid, which represents the Moors, and the other side represents Europe. The eagle represents Europe. And as we see, the eagle is what's holding the 13 states, right? So again, why would Indians want to be held by an eagle representing Europe, according to the Washita Moors, and I believe them? So the Moors are on one side by themselves, right? But the other Indians are in these states, right? Held by the eagle, which represents Europe. So in other words, one group of Indians done sold out the 13 colony Indians, and now we being dominated by Europe, but now the whole entire United States is being dominated by that eagle, right? Because the Moors are playing all these, they can't decide whether they're Moroccan Moors or American Moors, or they want to be one and everything to everybody. They want to be all of that. No, we Moroccan, we American, we move, they everything, right? So they don't have no clue about birthright, right? because they're busy being in everybody's birthright because that's how they, so we can't really go by them. They're it's like their mind is writing a check that ain't no bank gonna cash it because it don't make no damn sense, right? Because it's claiming too much, right? It's like, well, what bank did you get this check from? Well, the Bank of Morocco, the Bank of America, the Bank of China, the Bank of other. Can you choose one? Well, I belong to all of them. Could you get out of this? Could you just leave? Just leave. They don't. I don't think Moors have a real concept of what a birthright is because they don't really respect birthrights. They're too busy. They're so interested in every land that they can't see a specific birthright, you know, except if it could somehow be called theirs, and then everybody has to be called a Moor to get to their birthright because the Moor is claiming everybody's birthright, right? Oh boy. But anyway, that seal came up. See? So let me call your attention to the fact that on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, which appears on our dollar bills, you will find the exact symbol of the British Israel World Federation movement. Wow. So he's saying it's the exact symbol of the British Israel World Federation movement. This symbol is also carried on literature of other organizations promoting a world government and a world religion. This is why Indians don't want to be part of this, y'all. Indians, I need you to really think. Some of you say you're entrepreneurs. Okay. Let's see some of that go into building our own government. If you're that entrepreneurial, then you don't need the corporation to be that, right? Because that's who you are. That's in your blood. It's what you are, everything you aspire to be, and all that. Well, get outside of that system and have at it. But you have to name everything. You got to be like a full boss, not one that's dependent on a federal or state system because they're going to be your boss. I thought entrepreneurs want to be their own boss and stuff like that. So he's letting us know, and this again, we saw that this is a congressional record, right? This was a concern of Honorable J. Thorkins. I should have said his name before. Thorkelson of Montana in the House of Representatives. Okay, wait a minute. Is that what he? Okay, yeah, the House of Representatives. Okay, so he sees a problem here with the. Okay, so he's saying, let me call your attention to the fact that on the reverse of the Great Seal of the United States, which appears on our dollar bills, you will find the exact symbol of the British Israel World Federation movement. I wish he would say what this symbol is. This symbol is also carried on literature of other organizations promoting a world government and a world religion. At the bottom of the circle surrounding the pyramid, okay, you will find the wording Novus Ordo Seclorum. It was this new order that was advocated by Clinton Roosevelt several hundred years ago. You see, they planned for years, right? We said this several times. It was this new order that was advocated by Clinton Roosevelt several hundred years ago. So they do it very slowly so people they forget. You're distracted with, whatever's in the media, the social lights or whatever, the movies, the new music and all of that, football, baseball, basketball. all that. But meanwhile, this stuff been in the works for like, what do you say, 100 years, for over 100. This is how long they plan. See, a priesthood, this is what they do. They don't have the same life that they have created for the serfs or the slaves or whatever you call it. They get to sit back and just wait for us to forget. Okay, that's what they do, and they're just bidding their time. And we're a whole system of distraction and commercials. And so this is how long they can plan stuff. Now, the New World Order has been talked about for over 100 years, right? Several hundred years ago. Oh, several hundred years, okay? It was this new order that was advocated by Clinton Roosevelt several hundred years ago. Recently in Philip Drew, and now followed by the executive. What? Okay. Do you not think, as a good American people, that the administration has gone far from constitutional government when there is inscribed a symbol on the reverse of our great seal that advocates a new order? Making sense to me. But what do we find out from the Washita Moors about that seal? It's coming from what the Moors said. They were trying to make peace, right? And so they brought Europeans. That's what we read, y'all, and established a government for the Europeans. So they're basically saying they came over here to our land and decided that they are going to establish a two-system government, one for themselves and one for Europeans and Negropeans, right? And then on their dollar bill, because the Washita told us that that's the seal that they made, right? But now we have someone in Congress, in the House of Representatives, saying, do you not think, as good American people, that the administration has gone far from constitutional government? Well, see, that's what we thought. That was the storefront. Now, I think the Moors knew what kind of government it was making, and they knew that it could be used like a Trojan horse, right? So this brother's just getting wind of it, but he's thinking that it was meant, for something else, right? No, that was the storefront to get us all to sign on it, right? But they knew, like hundreds of years ago, the priesthood that the Washita told us they originated from. They had plans for years, hundreds of years, right? Yes, an order which means the destruction of our republic as formulated in the Constitution of the United States. But we're finding out even a constitution. You see, they're calling, if they create it, y'all, there is some kind of spiritual authority that they have over it, no matter what we say, no matter what we think. If it came from a foreigner and if he produced it, he made up a document and called it a constitution and brought it over here and got Indians talking about a constitution that they want to be part of. He just took you off of your standing and put you under his. Why? Because you're clinging to something that he created. Indians got to start to learn about rights of creation, because everything we're calling on is nothing we created, because we're feeling like it has to be official. But the thing is, we have a level of authority on this land mass to make a piece of paper official just by virtue of being American Indian and writing it, creating it. So this man understood in Congress, what was his name again? Honorable J. Thorkelson. He realized that there's something on the international sea that is looking to, how did he put it? Destruct, cause the destruction of our republic. This is what happens when you go international, y'all. It has its own jurisdiction. It's not going by yours. Okay? This man understood that. Yes, an order, which means the destruction of our republic as formulated in the Constitution of the United States. Indians won't have a constitution. I know they say. And you say, what did you just say? Yes, I said it, Indians. We're going to call it something else. We're not going to call it a constitution, right? Let's call it American Indian Birthright Law, American Indian Birthright Protocol, something. It won't be lingua franca, but it won't be constitution. This is what we have to do, Indians. We want, if we have to make something that is not going to even be in jeopardy of falling under their jurisdiction by name, by name recognition or name spelling. It may also interest you to know that this contemplated union now, okay, they had something called Union Now, as advocated by Clarence Strait, will be under the control of Great Britain and is a movement to return the United States as a colony in the British Empire. And we know that empires are Roman, right? So if you have an emperor or empress, it's all that you're calling in Rome. This is why the words are so important. We want to not further colonization as we awaken to our birthright. We have to create new words. Okay? We have to. It's not a question. Now, we will explain what everything means, right? We're not trying to be deceptive, but what we are doing is establishing full autonomy, full authority through our words. We will define them. I mean, I think for the time being, we might just use plain English because, I mean, let's face it, I don't think a great many of us are speaking our languages, but I think as soon as possible, when we do get some kind of our language back, we might want to change it even further. But that's all up to us. So we'll call the document a temporary English version, and then we'll put it in our language, and that'll be the final. We have to take word authority. I'm going to say it again. Indians have to take word authority over everything we make, and we cannot use words that were already used. It just gives dominion to a foreign entity, I promise you. That's what it does. Now, if we say what the word is, then we have the authority. And we can change it at will. We can't change someone else's stuff. We really know. Although, I mean, I do believe we can reword stuff as well as rename it. So it would still be a rewording and a renaming. It would be a rewording and a renaming. So this is just a no-brainer, y'all. I think it should be understood why this has to be done, and not a whole lot of, well, we can't do that. This is we have to get it clear again, clear out of the jurisdiction and dominion of foreign entities. We don't want anything Greek. We don't want anything Roman. We don't want anything British that they have claimed, like the term common law. No, we call it law of the land. We don't want compromised words or words that have been, patented or copywritten, owned by the monarchy and shit. No. Okay, so he's laying it out. Uh, should we become part of this union, our traditional rights and liberties will be lost, and we will have no greater status than an English possession. This was the dream of Cecil Rhodes and Andrew Carnegie when the latter wrote the book Triumphant Democracy in 1983. So that's what we want to read. This is a congressional record. If you want to look it up, I believe there's your it's from 1940. I think that is Monday, August. I think that's 19. Uh Proceedings and debates of the 76th Congress, third session. That's the congressional record. And this was a concern in Congress. This is not some idiot talking, y'all. He saw something. See, this is when Congress, I think, was still halfway in their right mind, but now I think they're all down with it. You won't hear this kind of talk these days. I really don't think at all, because they got so many of their people in those seats. The whole thing is theirs. That's why we don't want to be part of it. They were supposed to be employees, but they flipped the script and they are running this country as if they own it, because through their debt system, they think they do. But if we listen to the state nationals, what we could learn from them without becoming them, please remember, I'm not advocating becoming a state national. Not once I found out what kind of authority an American Indian has. State national, not necessary, but we can learn so much of this system from them. Because what I'm seeing that a lot of us keep deferring back to the system because there's nothing else. It's very hard to conceive that we have to create that which is not in existence. But we are the creators of the world, right? So what is so far-fetched about us creating our own government? What is so fathomable about that? Unfortunately, it's just necessary at this time. Again, we really don't have a choice. This world is closing in on us very quickly. When I tell you outside of America was all Moorish. So their system, it's already a staple outside of America. It's just that we represent the problem. American Indians represent the real opposition to that by virtue of them wanting so bad to be in our land and having to deal with us, that we actually have, again, like a leverage. The leverage is this is still our land. No matter what commercial shenanigans you brought here through piracy and fraud, if this is our land, you can't try to use commerce to get me outside of my land birthright footing. You don't have the jurisdiction. And see, once we get out of their system, uh they will have to, in other words, they will assist us in anything that we need, because it would amount to genocide if they don't. But we just have to let them know that we know that we have a jurisdiction outside of yours. So I'm leaving that on the screen. Did he mention? Let me see, because I thought he mentioned the United Nations here. I thought he did, but maybe did he? Well, it goes without saying, that the vehicle for one world order is clearly the United Nations, right? Clearly it is. That is the one thing that has been here, and we never really looked at it. Okay, see, British United Nations. Okay, so there we go. Mr. Speaker, the information contained in this booklet is important at this time, particularly in view of the fact that, okay, so he's repeating this, what we just read. The pro-English groups in the United States are now working in close cooperation with world internationalist organizations. That's the United Nations. Before 1917, foreign influence came mainly from Anglo-American groups. Since the World War, these groups have been fortified, and that's when the United Nations was made after a World War. That's what we read. I think it was Woodrow Wilson. Was it Woodrow Wilson? And it was supposed to be some kind of peacekeeping thing after the World War, but they had this shit all planned, y'all. It wasn't for world peace, it was for world domination. And like this speaker said, it overrides your own republic when you join some other. We don't want to be part of something because we're very unique, y'all. We can't join with old world, well, they're new world, really, little shenanigans. Because then we lose our autonomy, we lose our sovereignty. Okay. We have to stand up and be willing to build what we want for Indians. Now, I think we start with something general for Indians, but then I do think we have to go back to our territories. Algonquin land is still Algonquin land. In as much as Iroquois even want to be here, since they're so Europeanized, apparently, that their part of the land that would be all they have. They would, we after all we've been through, the displacement, no Indian is going to be fighting another Indian for their land anymore. We've been there, done that. It was a huge failure. Bringing in a third party did not help. Well, it helped some Indians. It was death to all other Indians, basically. So we're not going to be displacing Indians because there's nowhere else to go. You got to accept that, look, this is how it is. Indians have to return to their original territories on the American soil. Okay, so we start off with something generic for all Indians, but then we're going to have to start looking at that land and where we were. And I know the Algonquins had the East Coast, and we still do. So we just got to take it back. Okay? We have every right to, because ain't nowhere other. We don't got no land in Europe. We don't got no land nowhere else. So any foreign entity that's here talking about y'all better think again. This is my birthright. You're not taking it from me when you have a whole landmass that still claims you, as I learned tonight from Anna, as their citizen. So you'll have two, and I'll have none. In what universe? Not this one. So get out here with that noise. We want our land back. If you don't like me having my land back because you want to have my land, go back home and have your land. That's where your land is. Okay. And having our land means we have access to all the resources, all the fishing, all the hunting, and no treaty bullshit about this area and that area. The whole area belongs to us. You can't squeeze us out because there's nowhere else for us to go. This is our livelihood. This was given to us by God and our ancestors. Ain't no man could take it from us. Ain't no colonizer, no king, no pope, no nothing. The doctrine of discovery was denounced, but it should have never been announced. You can't take what belongs to an Indian because he has nowhere else to live, nowhere else to go. You displace that Indian, someone else is going to be displaced. It's just not necessary. Go back home. Everything has to return to its origin. Go back home. Even though this, government said you're American, even your home country doesn't say that. Your home country still sees foreigners as still being citizens. They all have dual citizenship. I didn't know that. Because of their country. Their country doesn't allow it. That's what Anna said tonight. This wasn't one of her old videos. This was a recent announcement she made. Well, she does lectures. So anyway. So before 1917, foreign influence came mainly from Anglo-American groups. Since the World War, these groups have been fortified by the international financiers and the internationalists, or so-called minority group. The pressure is therefore more than double. For combined, these groups control all avenues of communication and are now using them to further their plan of British domination to establish a world federation of states. Isn't that what ADRIP is? American is from the American Organization of States. They're taking over through the state system, y'all. We thought it was just for America. No. See, that's what happens when you take on the colonizer's words. He had other plans for states. He's going to make you part of a world federation of states. That's the U.S. Congressional Record. It was August 19th. There it is. U.S. Congress. Look it up. There's your source. Okay. Monday, August 19th, 1940. So I quickly wanted to look at is it here? Let me see. Okay. Okay, so we read here, this is we changed, I did a reworking so that big picture is not here, but it's the Washita Moors article, same article. Remember the one, now these were in the margin before, but now somehow they became the whole text, but they still, sort of, secondary. Remember, we read the Amaru Washita de Dugdamundia Moors were originally a group of priests from the Egypt of the Old West. Old Egypt, Tamari, let's just say, also known as the Dogon, Olmecs, and Mayans. Okay, so all of that is falling with the priests. That's why we can't claim any of these. Okay, we can't claim Dogon, we can't claim Olmecs, we can't claim Mayans. What's the purest thing you'll find was Tamari. They came before the Mayans. Okay, so everything that they mentioned, they know that they infiltrated. Okay, Amaru is one of them. Sumerian god Amaru. That belongs to them. All of that belongs to them too. Amen even belongs to them because there was no such thing. It was just Ra. Okay, so we went over this, but I want to, yeah, this was the anomaly we found. Morocco and Indiana was founded in 1851, before the one in Africa in 1956. So what was the Morocco that signed a 1787 treaty? 1787 is way before the Morocco founded in 1851, right? So what Morocco was there that signed this treaty of peace and friendship? Okay. But anyway, we read here that the 1787 Morocco Treaty of Peace and Friendship was a means to try to stop all the fighting over the land. So the Moors brought the Europeans to the table, not Indians, right? The Moors brought Europeans to the table to form a peaceful two-system government. And we found out that that's the problem right there. The fact that you made a two-system government, one for a foreigner, doesn't even make sense. On what other landmass do they do such foolishness? This is just the Moors staking a claim in our land, because they could do whatever they want on their lands outside of America, right? Or the Americas. But this was just them making sure that they had a stake in our land, right? So they formed a peaceful two-system government. It's peaceful because it has slavery interwoven into it, jet slavery. And it's so funny that you put your seal on a dollar, a fiat note, not even legal, lawful money. Okay, so the Moors brought Europeans. That tells you who's running this show, right? The Europeans didn't bring Moors, y'all. Y'all who's all about the white man did this to me and all of that. Well, who brought the white man? Huh? The Moor said the Moors brought the Europeans to the table, right? They didn't say, well, if you don't like it here, you can go home. No, right? The Moors wanted them to stay, not Indians. The Moors, right? Okay. So the Moors brought the Europeans to the table. They just overrode Indians and they gonna make the peace in our land, right? No, they're staking a claim in our land, using Europeans to do it with. To form a peaceful two-system government, one for the Moors and one for the Europeans. No Indians involved, right? But that's good. That's why we have to build our own, y'all. We have to build it from the ground up, which is great because that means we get to control every aspect of it. We do not use any words that were formerly used in our oppressive state. Evidence of this two-system government can be found on the back of a $1 bill. Notice the two seals, which suggest two governments, one for the Moors and one for the Europeans. The seal of the Great Pyramid with an eye above it is the Moorish seal. So we have a Moorish seal. The other seal with the bald eagle holding 13 arrows is the seal for the European. So I thought, let's look at that because we want to get a visual. So there's the $1 bill, right? There's the New World Order, right? Coming from which side of the it's not coming from the whites, right? It's not coming from Europeans, right? Who's the New World? Who built the New World Order, y'all? Well, what did we just read? Who does this represent? The Moors, right? That's what they told us, right? This is not even the Indians, right? So the New World Order is coming from the Moors. But we want to look at this because this is where we are. We're actually, I realize basically what's being said here. The Moors are over here by themselves, right? The Indians are represented in these 13 colonies, right? So we got to read about that. So let's get a close up. So what is this? Out of one many, I think that's what that means. Uh, uh, but anyway, what I found interesting is that all the 13 symbolism is over here with the eagle, but there was a 13 layers in the 13 levels of this pyramid. So there's 13 there, right? But the colonies are represented here. This must be the 13 here might be, I don't know, the chiefs that betrayed the Indians or joined the Moors. Those is that the 13? And then us slaves, the ones that were called black, are we here in the clutches of Europe? Because this part is the European. This is the Negropean or the European. So what I want to look at is okay. Okay, so this is what do the symbols on the US $1 mean? $1 bill mean. Okay, so we just want to cut down to here. The main symbols on the dollar are the Great Seal of the United States, the unfinished pyramid, and the Eye of Providence. That's the eye of the Moors. That all-seeing eye over the unfinished pyramid is supposed to portray the United States as a land continuously growing and far from finished. Well, because they're not telling us what they're building. That's what that article in the Congressional Record was basically telling us. First, you start out with states, but you're not telling us that it's going to be what is like world states, you know, organization of states, a world organization of states. So they're using America to slowly build this idea of a one world government, right? So just like the turtle that we kept reading about, the turtle that keeps growing and growing in the Iroquois creation story, it has to keep growing. That's what it sounds like here. A land continuously growing like the turtle back was and far from finished, right? Until it takes over everything. Uh, so, although some believe it indicates a connection to the Illuminati secret society, yeah, that's what they think the eye is. The bald eagle on the dollar bill is a symbol of victory and courage. The dollar bill also has many Latin phrases spread throughout. The main ones read e pluribus, e pluribus unum, from many one. Oh, so I had it the wrong, I had the other way around. So that's what the eagle has. The New World Order, a new order has begun, a new order for the ages. That's from the Moors. And this one, Annuit Septis, that's also, I believe, on the Moors side. God has favored our undertakings. But which God? Set? Yeah, that would be Set. Their God is Set. So let's look. I think we're going to find that wording. Yeah, there it is. Annuit Septis and New World Order. Okay. So let's go back. And yeah, God has favored our, that's what Annuit Septis means. God had favored our undertaking. Which God are you talking about? That would be Set, the God of chaos, the God of war. The number 13 plays an important role in the dollar bill, as it is the number of the original colonies. That's what I wanted to in the country. You can see it represented by the number of steps on the pyramid, the number of stars above the eagle, the number of letters in some of the Latin phrases, and the numbers of fruits, leaves, and arrows on the picture. So there's the arrows, right? So I'm what I'm seeing. This represents is that we are in the clutches of a European domination because thanks to the Washita, they have explained to us that the eagle represents Europe. Now they wouldn't say this in this type of an article. They would never say that. But the ones who know better are telling us out of many one. So once they get in our bloodline, that one is going to be the one that mixed with them. And the many is just going to go to hell in a handbasket. But the 13 fruits on this little vine here, the 13 arrows, all this is representing the number of colonies, right? So it's like they're controlling the food, they're controlling us. We're in the clutches of a bird of prey, right? The seal of the Negro peon is a bird of prey. I don't know why there's 13 stars, but I think what I'm thinking is the idea is to get representatives from each of the well actually, how's this working now? The 13 colonies are not Indians. What am I saying? But Indians are in those, right? We're just being made the lowest slaves. So our territories are in these colonies. And that's mostly Algonquin. A lot of Algonquin. I mean, there is some in the lower southern states that's a little getting a little more diversity there, but it's mostly Algonquin that are the 13 colonies are displacing. But yeah, it seems to me the Moors have separated themselves from all of this. They're all the way over here talking about God, the New World Order, and what is this? God shines on our undertakings. What does that mean again? So that's all I want to say. Yeah, they say this. Some people believe there is also an owl and two small spiders represented on the bill, although this is subject to controversy. Okay. But yeah, I want to see what. Okay, God has favored our undertaking. Okay, and you accept this. E pluribus from many, one. See, that's the one world order. From many, one. A new order has begun. And that had to happen in America through money. So they use money to spearhead this new order. Debt. Because when I see this, I see a debt note. So the order is debt and debt slavery. And look, I'll just say it again. We ain't supposed to be part of none of this, y'all. American Indians are not supposed to be in any of this, even in these 13. That's how they. That's just how they got on our land. And these are Moors too, because technically, it's the Moors bringing in the slaves of Moors as well as other Negro uh, peons. So all of this really is a whole Moorish thing. Those 13 colonies came from Britain, right? And so it's the slaves of the Moors and the Moors. This this would have to be, if they're putting themselves on par with God, the Moors. This is bringing in this is would be the Bible element, because they are talking about God over here, right? And so this is something originating from basically some kind of religious idea of God, right? Indians, everything represented here is representation of our genocide. It's basically all Moorish, because they just told us from the horse's mouth, the Moors brought the Europeans to the table, and they made a government, one for the Moors, the masters, and one for the slaves. Okay? Slave over here, slave master over here. And Indians weren't supposed to be any part of this, but they knew that we would sort of forget our history because they were teaching everything but our history. And so we'd fall in with the slaves, because there's no way we're going to be with these dudes, right? Because we have a birthright here. They don't. Only those of us who are charmed and flattered or impressed with the Moors are trying to be Moors. I am not impressed with the level of deception that these clowns use. And I have to call them clowns because I feel like they've been clowning us for centuries now with this confusing, chaotic narrative. I'm not impressed. And unfortunately, many of our American Indian males are extremely impressed with the accomplishments of Moors. I am not. I am not. All I see is greed. All I see is lying. I can't stand being lied to. I just it's just not something I will ever truly appreciate. And I see the Moors as liars. If they're not liars, they're deceivers, even worse. So I can't be impressed with any of their accomplishments. Our whole history has been lied about. And they're going to stand there and act like they had no part in that, and then say that they were the the custodians of the knowledge. So that means you had all the power of how we were educated or not educated. It's just that every time you open your mouth, you got to put yourself as if you were the first thing, and you were not. You were not the first thing, Moors. Nope, you were not. You were a knockoff or break off of the first thing. And those who are the real first thing, those are the ones you come for. That's the first thing, the firstborn, that you always had a problem with. And this shows us that you are not the firstborn. That's what it shows us. You work far too much deception. You are Jacob. That's what King James called himself, right? Jacobus or whatever. You're Jacob, the deceiver, the supplanter, the cheater. That is your character. So, yeah, this is what we want to do. It's about 2.5 hours. It's time to close the video. I'm making a long ass video. So thank you for watching. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna say again, thank you for watching. It's kind of a little knee jerk, but the stuff that I did have to say, and I had more, and so I guess I have to be next video. Until next time, stay, be highly favored, your land back, your identity back, your sovereignty back, and all the great things. Thank you.